So, I guess like conspiracies, like a spiritual conspiracy. Wait, you're balancing on chopstick in front of this. It's a work in progress. Neither of us were really supposed to know like how this is gonna go that much. It's not supposed to be that figured out, okay? It's not supposed to be like the most figured out. It's kind of like in between. So yeah, I know your whole perspective is like a little wrong in life. We're trying to like balance you out though. Oops. Okay, do you think you're balanced like a little bit? This is in the way, but it's going to be a little bit in the way. You're just gonna have like this perspective with me, okay? This is just like a marker. So, yeah. Situation. It's nighttime. I'm gonna start my new job tomorrow in the morning. Not that early, but early enough that I call it morning. Because it's like late morning when I start. My hair's like crunchy from the... Yeah, it smells kind of good. It's crunchy from hair products. I like when it's like a little bit like that. Like it's kind of good, actually. Because look how like it stays like so structured. I'm like, look, I could like pick it up and drop it and it's like the same exact shape because it's stiff. It's funny. Hair products, you know, kind of good. So anyway, what I was trying to say was not about my new job. I just like, you know, I saw some news, the news, okay? The news. What am I doing? Anyway, I saw the news, and there's always news about some new plane crash, but okay, I do think that sometimes when a plane crashes, okay, you guys might not like this, but I do think that when a plane crashes, it's a part of the timeline, because I think that specific plane had to be chosen for the timeline, essentially, even though there's people on it. Like, I think that sometimes people's ways of dying, unfortunately, is a part of the timeline. So why or why not, you know, a million different reasons probably, but what occurred to me is that if a plane is already it's gonna sound weird, I think if a plane is already determined, like for sure, to be a part of the timeline in crashing, right? What's crazy is I was thinking about how anything can happen on that plane because it's still like going to go down, right? Like essentially, or yeah, you can see it any type of way, right? Like weird stuff can go down. Say they're already in the air. The idea of a plane is that you can't escape once you're in it. That's what an airplane is. Yeah, it's travel, but it's also that once you're on it, it's not like a train where like, yeah, you could risk your life and try to jump out. You know what I mean? I mean, depending, right? Like a car, yeah, you could technically risk your life and try to jump out. You might die, but you might jump out and survive. A plane, you need a parachute, you need like a lot of stuff if you think you're gonna survive jumping out. And there's a lot of people, and you're at such a high altitude that if there were an opening, you're probably gonna get like sucked out and die. Even if there's like a little, people say even if there's like a tiny like little hole in the window, you could like get sucked out, that kind of thing. So at that altitude or whatever. What I'm trying to say though is, say a plane is already predetermined to be a timeline where it crashes somewhere. Say this is the plane. Say that like the spiritual entities that are in control of the planet, obviously if you don't believe in that, you're gonna be like, what? But say this is the plane. This is like the thing it's gonna crash into. Say it's already predetermined that it's on a path where it is going to, both spiritually and physically, this plane is like not gonna survive, right? So eventually it's gonna go like that, right? So when it's about here and it's not there yet, and there's maybe like a couple of hours in between, because, well, imagine this, the distance between this is like a lot smaller than it physically is, okay, in the mind. So my nose started like running. What? It's fine. So that was weird. That was gross, that was weird. Okay, whatever. Life goes on. Not that big of a deal. So every time I try to tell you guys something interesting and important information, something embarrassing happens to me, because I have to be like, I don't even care that something embarrassing happened. I still want to tell my story on the planet. Okay. Actually, I want to put on chapstick and then I'll continue the story. And it's all theoretical too, spiritual, theoretical, but the message I'm trying to convey is kind of interesting. And what I want to tell you is that if a plane is like determined that it's like fate wants it to like fall and crash, at the turning point where like fate is predetermined, theoretically you could say that anything can happen on this plane that nobody's going to find out about, assuming they lose like cell service, right? Or whatever. Like theoretically after that point, if that were to happen, anything can go down on this plane and nobody's going to know. So you could actually have like aliens teleport into the airplane, right? You could have like people come down with a disease that nobody's ever had on the planet that is like rapid onset. People can start morphing into like weird animal creatures or something. Some of the people on the plane might start disappearing. Imagine somebody who wasn't supposed to be on that timeline, like accidentally got on the wrong plane or something, or bought the wrong ticket and they weren't supposed to be on there, it wasn't expected. Imagine day of, somebody who was like supposedly supposed to be on the plane got on the wrong one, changed their ticket at the last minute, decided to bring a friend instead. Like, you know what I mean? Say like the wrong person gets on the plane, like little tiny mistakes. I know people could be like, well, with like TSA, that doesn't really happen because your name has to be on the ticket, this and that, and your ID has to match. Yes, but imagine the plane just has like empty spots and somebody is offered a chance to fill that spot from a different flight, like somebody's information gets transferred over, whatever. It isn't supposed to be a big deal, but then it's like, imagine somebody is given the ability to like teleport, like because they accidentally ended up on the wrong plane because they weren't supposed to be a part of the fate that was supposed to be predetermined, essentially. Like imagine that that's the case, either way, whether you believe in that or not. Theoretically, even if you don't believe in it, okay? Theoretically, if fate is at all predetermined, it's possible that anything could go down on that plane once it's left the ground. As long as there's not internet connection and nobody's recording it, that kind of thing. So as long as somehow that ability is impaired, anything else can happen. So like the types of mysterious plane disappearances where like, whatever it's called, mysterious plane disappearances where like they lose communication, they lose internet access completely, okay? Imagine then, like in between fate, predetermined fate, and where the physical plane is, we still have so many hours in between where anything could happen. Or like those plane disappearances where nobody ever finds out. Like theoretically, there's no reason a person on that plane, their physical body cannot like turn into paper and then dissolve in front of you. Like there's no reason to think a person wouldn't start developing like split personality immediately and go completely insane. Or that somebody wouldn't become like something really disturbing, like cannibal or vampire or something, right? Or like try to. Like even if they don't even know the plane's going down or something, or that something's wrong. Like I'm saying, theoretically, after that point, the weird stuff can go down. Like you could start seeing like a genie in front of you, physically, right? Or some of the people might turn into one. And you could be like, I thought you were a person the whole time. And they were like, I was, but not anymore. Like weird stuff, like, you know what I'm saying? Like cats could start walking out of like open suitcases on the ground or something. And nobody thought that was gonna be a thing. You know what I mean? like aliens, people could start having like visions of aliens, but then people next to them start physically turning into the aliens that they saw in their head, and it gets like weird and progresses, right? They could look out their window and see a volcano erupting, but there's so many miles into the air that it's not real, and they don't know that it's not real, even though it's not real. Or maybe it is real in some weird split dimension thing. Like, it can get weird. Once a timeline is predetermined, because of the structure of it and how much it's like forced to become true at that point, anything could happen in between. Anything that those people need to like catch up on, right? According to fate, I guess, can happen. Any like last minute experiences that they're like meant to have that wouldn't be a part of normal reality, theoretically can easily happen there. Anyway, I love you guys. Oh, wait, there's one more thing I wanted to add. It just came to me, okay? One more thing I wanted to add. Time. Because time is real in chronological order, but the speed of time is like, if a tree falls in a forest and no one hears it, did it ever really happen? So say there's 4 hours before the predetermined fate, but the plane's already in the air. And the predetermined fate is that plane crashing or something bad happening, okay? 100 years could pass in 4 hours. 1 second could pass in 4 hours. Because once they've already lost internet access, they essentially lost proof that anybody's gonna have. So people who are on the outside can look at it and see, like, oh, it's been on the flight path for 4 hours. But on the inside of the plane, a little bit like the tortoise in Doctor Who, right? With the Time Lords and stuff, like the TARDIS, it's bigger on the inside than the outside, so it kind of implies, and it time travels. So it's a spaceship. So it kind of implies the whole, like, if a tree falls in the forest, nobody really knows, because everybody passing the TARDIS does not know that it's bigger on the inside. It looks like a tiny little box. But when people walk inside of it, it's like infinitely large and they can go anywhere, right? So, because it's infinite inside and they can travel and stuff. So, yeah. So, there's no reason to think that like everybody in a plane crash, unless there's physical proof they didn't die of old age when they were like a child when they got on the plane, and they don't have internet access, so you can't prove it. Like, so long as there's not physical proof, you actually don't know that didn't happen. Because it's kind of like Schrodinger's cat, right? It's like, if you can't prove which one's true, like, is the cat dead or alive? It could be both, it could be neither, it could be one or the other, like, nobody knows, essentially. So, there's no reason to think that, you know, they at the very least on that plane don't feel like they could have had an experience that nobody else had, but nobody can communicate with them to find out. Anyway, I love you guys. I love you. See you later. Be safe. Be as safe as possible. I feel like I have to sneeze. Anyway, I love you. Bye. Bye.